Hello students, welcome to the online lecture series of St. Andrews Institute of Technology and Management, Gurugram. Myself Satinder Vats, Assistant Professor in ETC Department. In today's video, we will see about the Fourier transforms and the properties of Fourier transforms, which is a part of Unit 2nd of Signals and Systems, EE 4th semester. So Fourier transform is basically a mathematical tool for frequency analysis of signals. Okay, so it will convert the time domain signal into frequency domain. Okay, and Laplace transform is a, whereas if we compare it with Laplace transform is used for circuit analysis, whereas the Fourier transform is used for the frequency analysis of signals. Fourier transform exists for energy and power signals, whereas Laplace transform also exists for other than energy and power signals. It exists for neither energy nor power signals as well. But one signal is there, an exception is there, that is the unit impulse function, which is a neither energy nor power signal, but its Fourier transform can be calculated. Okay, so this is the one signal, unit impulse signal, for which we can calculate the Fourier transform, which comes out to be 1 upon j omega plus pi del omega. So if we have the continuous signal xt in time domain, then its Fourier transform representation can be given as x of omega, or it can be written as x of j omega. Okay, whereas in Laplace transform it is written as x of s, where s is equal to sigma plus j omega. If the real part of the complex frequency s becomes 0, if this real part s is equal to sigma plus j omega, which you will see in Laplace transforms, if this becomes 0, then the Laplace transform will be equal to the Fourier transform. Okay, so this is the Fourier transform pair. X omega is the Fourier transform, which can be calculated as the integral minus infinity to infinity xt into e raised to power minus j omega t dt, whereas the inverse Fourier transform can be given as xt. If we know the Fourier transform x omega, then we can calculate the signal in time domain from this x omega as using this formula, that is 1 upon 2 pi limit minus infinity to infinity x omega e raised to power j omega t d omega. Thing to remember that the integral is done here with respect to omega, while in a first case when we were finding the Fourier transform, the integral was in respect with the time, that is dt. So this is the Fourier transform and inverse Fourier transform pair. So this is Fourier transform, or if we know the Fourier transform, we can calculate the signal in time domain from that Fourier transform. Okay, so this formula you need to remind. Then there are some conditions for the existence of Fourier transform of a signal, which is also called Dirichlet's conditions. So the first condition is signal should have finite number of maxima and minima over finite interval. That is, if we have a signal, okay, if we have a signal, then for a finite interval of time it must have the finite value of maximas and minimas. It cannot be the infinite number of values. Okay, so the signal must have finite maximas and finite minimas over a finite interval of time. Second is signal should have finite number of discontinuities over finite interval. So the signal must have the finite number of discontinuities over a finite interval of time. Okay, and the third and the last condition is the signal should be completely integrable. If I am having a signal, then the integral of this should come out to be finite, that is less than infinity. So this signal should be absolutely integral over the entire range of time, so its value should be finite. Okay, so impulse and energy signals are absolutely integrable signals. That is why their Fourier transform is possible. Impulse and all energy signals are absolutely integrable, because energy, as we have already seen, energy was nothing but this integral minus infinity to infinity dt. So if it comes out to be finite or integrable, then the Fourier transform would be possible. So these conditions are sufficient. Deshayes condition are sufficient but not necessary. That means if some signal doesn't follow this condition, then also it can maybe a Fourier transform for that. But if some signal is following these conditions, then the Fourier transform will be can be calculated. So let's have an example here. Consider xt is given to us as e raised to power minus at into ut. So we are given xt is a signal e raised to power minus at ut. So as we can see, there is a unit signal multiplied in this signal. So the range of this signal would be, this would be a right-handed signal. That is, it is defined only for t greater than 0, and for t less than 0 it would be 0. Okay, so putting this into the formula, it becomes e raised to power minus at ut into e raised to power minus j omega t dt, and the limit would be from 0 to infinite, as it is a right-handed signal. So we can replace ut by 1 because the value of unit signal is 1. So what remains is e raised to power minus at into e raised to power minus j omega t dt. So taking the integral, it becomes e raised to power minus a plus j omega t. So if I integrate it, I will get 1 upon a plus j omega into e raised to power minus a j omega t, and the limit would be 0 to infinity. Okay, so when I put the limits, I get x of j omega or x of omega as 1 upon a plus j omega, which is the Fourier transform of this signal xt. Okay, now the signal xt, that is equal to e raised to power minus at, can be drawn in time domain as this signal. This would be the signal in time domain. And if I represent this signal in the frequency domain, okay, then it will look like this one. So this would be the x of j omega, magnitude of x of j omega, which is maximum at omega is equal to 0. So at omega is equal to 0, our Fourier transforms value x j omega is equal to 1 upon a, as you can see in the graph. Okay, so it is a continuous signal as well. The Fourier transform of the signal xt is also continuous. So this is the graph in frequency domain. So Fourier transform is complex valued. The plot is a function of omega. Okay, and x omega can be represented in terms of magnitude and phase. So this is the magnitude of the this Fourier transform. We can also calculate the phase. So phase of x j omega would be minus tan inverse omega by a. So the phase would be minus tan inverse omega by a, as you can see over there. We can also draw that. So now let's see the second example, in which we are given signal xt is equal to e raised to power minus a modulus of t. So this will be a two-sided signal, that is it would be defined for t greater than 0 and t less than 0, as well as in the signal we have modulus of t, which is defined for both the sides. So I can split this signal into two signals, that is for minus infinity to 0 and then 0 to infinity. So it comes out to be e raised to power at e raised to power minus j omega t dt plus 0 to infinite e raised to power minus at into e raised to power minus j omega t dt. So calculating both this part, I get this, that is 1 upon a minus j omega plus 1 upon a plus j omega. If I combine both them, add both of them, I will get 2a upon a plus omega square. So this is the time domain representation of signal, and this is the frequency domain representation of the signal, which we can calculate using the Fourier transform. So Fourier transform was coming out to be 2a upon a square plus omega square. So maximum value would be at omega is equal to 0, which is 2 by a, which I have pointed out in this figure. Similarly, we can find the other values as well. So it is also a continuous graph in frequency domain. So now let's see some of the properties of the continuous time Fourier transform, as we are dealing with the continuous signals only in this lecture. So first is the linearity. If the one signal is xt and its transform is xj omega, and other signal is yt and its Fourier transform is yj omega, so the Fourier transform of the linear combination of both of these signals, that is axt plus byt, would the Fourier transform would also be a linear combination with the same constant coefficients. Okay, so you can easily prove that using the same formula, because we can, if I find the Fourier transform, it would be splitted into e minus, this would be the formula, so we can split into two signals. Okay, I can easily prove that. Next is time shifting property. If we are providing the delay in the time domain signal xt, that is it becomes xt minus t naught, then its Fourier transform will be x j omega multiplied by this term, that is e raised to power minus j omega t naught, where t naught is the value which we have shifted our signal xt. Okay, so it would become e raised to power minus j omega t naught into x of j omega, where x j omega is the Fourier transform of xt. So we can prove that if using the inverse Fourier transform, xt can be given as this. In this signal I replace t by t minus t naught, so it becomes this. Now if I expand this e raised to power j omega t naught, that is this function, if I expand this, it becomes e raised to power minus j omega t naught x j omega, and I am taking it outside the bracket, e raised to power j omega t. So you can see that we are getting one extra term, e raised to power minus j omega t naught, and the other is xj omega. So Fourier transform xt minus t naught becomes the Fourier transform of xt multiplied by e raised to power minus j omega t naught. If it was like that, xt plus t naught, if I add t naught, then it would become e raised to power j omega t naught into x of j omega. Okay, so if it was plus, that is the signal was advanced, so there will be a multiplying term, that is e raised to power j omega t naught. So this is how you can perform the time shifting in Fourier transform. Next is conjugation property. in which if we have xt is equal to x Fourier transform x j omega, then the conjugate of the Fourier transform of the conjugate xt, that is if I take the Fourier transform of conjugate of xt, it will be the conjugate of x j omega with negative frequency, that is x minus j omega. So we can prove that as well. If I take the conjugate of x j omega, which is x j omega is this, if I take conjugate on both sides, so it becomes the conjugate of xt into, as the conjugate of e raised to power minus j omega t is e raised to power j omega t, then dt. So replacing w by minus w, I will get the this function, that is x of minus j omega is equal to, because we need a term of minus j omega t, so I replace w by minus w on both the sides, so it becomes x conjugate of minus j omega is equal to this. So that is the conjugate Fourier transform of conjugate of xt becomes the conjugate of Fourier transform xt with minus omega, so minus term comes. So next is differentiation and integration. If we have xt whose Fourier transform is x of j omega, so the Fourier transform of the differential function of dx by dt would be j omega x j omega, which you can easily prove by using this formula, taking the differentiation on both the sides of the inverse Fourier transform function. So here it becomes dxt by dt, and here it becomes j omega term will come into picture, because it comes from the differentiation of this e raised to power j omega t. So this becomes the Fourier transform of dxt by dt would be j omega multiply xj omega. So j omega term will come into picture. Okay, similarly the integration of this, that is the xt, so its Fourier transform will be 1 upon j omega. If initial conditions are 0, so this term would become 0 and it remains 1 upon j omega plus x j omega. But if x of 0 is not 0, that is initial conditions are not 0, then it would become 1 upon j omega x j omega plus pi x0 del omega, where del omega is the impulse. Okay, so these are the Fourier transform of differentiation and integration of xt. Now next is frequency and time scaling. If I scaled my system in time domain, that is if I compress, so this signal will be compressed, so in frequency domain it will be expanded, that is it will be divided by a. So if I multiply a in the time domain, then the frequency domain it will be divided by a. So we can prove it using this. If I take the Fourier transform x of at, it becomes x of at into e raised to power minus j omega t naught, sorry, t into dt. If I now substitute tau as at, that is this at is becomes tau, so the limit also changes, that is it will be integrated in terms of d tau now, d tau. So it becomes x tau e raised to power minus j omega by a tau d tau for a greater than 0, and this signal for a less than 0. So this is why I have put a modulus here, because it would depend if a is greater than 0 or less than 0. For greater than 0 it would become this, and for less than 0 it would be this. Okay, so this is the time shifting, time scaling. If I scale the system or signal in time domain, then it will be divided by a in the frequency domain. Now comes the Parseval's relation, which often comes in your examinations, semester examinations. So it is very important, this derivation. So it says that total energy of the signal xt, which is nothing but xt square minus infinity to infinity dt, which we have already seen in the first unit. So Parseval's relation says that total energy of the signal xt may be determined either by computing the energy per unit time, that is xt whole square, or integrating it over time, or we can compute the total energy of the signal xt using the frequency domain, in which it will be x j omega square by 2 pi, and integrating it over all frequencies. So this is the main equation of Parseval's identity, which says that the energy in time domain is equal to the energy in frequency domain integrated over the frequency, that is xt squared dt is equal to 1 upon 2 pi minus infinity to infinity x j omega square d omega. So you can prove it using this. If this is our signal in time domain, minus infinity to infinity xt square dt, which is the energy in time domain, so I can write it as the multiple of xt and conjugate of xt. Okay, so if I put xt outside and put the inverse Fourier transform function of x conjugate dt, I will get this function. Now reversing the order of integration, I would be having this function 1 upon 2 pi minus infinity to infinity x. I have taken that conjugate outside and put the xt inside. So this function, as you can see, is x j omega, and the outside one is conjugate of x j omega. So their multiplication would become x j omega whole square. So this is how we can prove it. So the energy in time domain will be also the energy in frequency domain integrating over the whole frequency range. Now the last property is the convolution property. Convolution, as we have seen in the last lecture in the LTIs. So if we have a system, okay, for the impulse signal delta t, the output of the signal is ht, which is called the impulse response of the signal. So if I provide some other signal xt, then output yt would be the convolution of xt with the system response ht, that is the impulse response. So yt is become xt, which is the input signal, convolution ht, which is the system response or impulse response. So the convolution in time domain will be equal to the multiplication in frequency domain. So it makes our analysis very easy when I analyze the signal in frequency domain. So the convolution in time domain will be equal to the simple multiplication in frequency domain, where ht is the system response impulse response and xt is the input signal in the time domain. So xj omega is the Fourier transform of xt, and hj omega is the Fourier transform of ht. So if I need to calculate yt, I can always take the inverse Fourier transform of y of j omega. So it is a very useful property when we analyze the signals and systems. So now we have some basic Fourier transform pairs which you need to learn. If I have a signal e raised to power j omega naught t, then its Fourier transform would be 2 pi del omega minus omega naught. It can also be seen that the Fourier transform of signal xt is equal to 1, that is for unit signal, the Fourier transform would come out to be 2 pi del omega. And since in this I am providing the change in frequency, that is shift in frequency, so if I provide the shifting in frequency, there would be a multiplication term in the time domain, e raised to power j omega naught t. So if I multiply 1 with e raised to power j omega t naught, so this becomes our xt. That is, if I calculate the transform of e raised to power j omega naught t, it would come out to be 2 pi del omega with a frequency shift of omega naught. Since the Fourier transform of xt is equal to 1 is 2 pi del omega. If I now multiply it with e raised to power g omega naught t, then there will be a frequency shift in Fourier transform, which would become this signal. So using the property you can calculate this function. Similarly, cos omega naught t can be represented cos omega naught t can be represented as e raised to power j omega naught t plus e raised to power minus j omega naught t divided by 2. So I can split this into two exponential functions and then can find the Fourier transform. So which comes out to be pi bracket del omega minus omega naught plus del omega plus omega naught. Similarly, I can find out the Fourier transform of sine omega naught by splitting it into two exponential terms. It comes out to be pi upon j del omega minus omega naught minus, there will be a minus sign, del omega plus omega naught. Fourier transform of unit, that is 1, is 2 pi del omega. Of impulse function is 1. Of unit function ut is 1 upon j omega plus pi del omega. This is a very important signal. For unit signal it comes out to be 1 upon j omega plus pi del omega. For a time shifted version of impulse, that is del t minus t naught, it comes out to be e raised to power minus j omega t naught. As for del t it was 1, if I provide the shifting, there will be a multiplication term into 1, so it becomes e raised to power minus j omega naught t. This is e raised to power minus at ut, which we have already calculated. It comes out to be 1 upon a plus j omega. If I now calculate t into e raised to power minus at ut, it would be nothing but the this one, 1 upon a plus j omega square. If I multiply it with t raised to power n minus 1 upon n minus 1 factorial, then it would be 1 upon a plus j omega raised to power n. So these are the some basic Fourier transform pairs. If I calculate the inverse Fourier transform, it would come out to be this one. So these are some basic Fourier transform pairs which you all should learn, because they are very useful while calculating other Fourier transforms. Okay, so this is it for the lecture. Thank you very much.